Today, I want to talk to you about a serious issue. I say that as a bit of a joke, but it really is. Now, recently I've put on some weight, which in itself isn't that exciting or interesting, but the background to that decision and what we're going to be talking about today will be. What we're going to talk about impacts your training and race performance, as well as your health. I've put on weight recently, and it was for a specific reason, and that's because I was cold. Now, before you say, come on James, that's not interesting at all. Give me a moment here because there's more to it than that, and I want to explain how it is important to you. I was just cold so much of the time, and even though we're in winter here in England, I was still feeling it on the milder days. Generally cold hands, cold toes. I want to get you thinking about your own training, performance and health by giving you practical examples that you might be able to relate to, or perhaps see how it might relate to a friend or family member. So I put on some weight, and we're talking in the realms of 1.5 to 2 kilos, which really isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. I did that because I was just feeling a bit too cold for my liking, and I decided I wanted some extra fluff to keep me warm in this cold English winter. Now, the difference this has made is pretty impressive. I still get cold, but nowhere near the same level, and my fingers and especially my toes seem to be coping much better with the longer rides. So, in my opinion, there's two possible explanations for this, and it might be just one of them, or it might be a combination of them. The first is that I simply have more fat now, and there's not really much more to it. I've put on a bit of weight, mostly as fat, maybe a little bit of extra muscle because we all like to think that. And that's just keeping me warmer. I think there's definitely an element of that, although I can't say I've noticed that I've suddenly grown chubby toes. The second possibility, and this is the reason why we're here today, is that it could be because I was in an energy deficient state. Now, in simple terms, and related to exercise, this means not eating enough to cover normal physiological needs when exercise is accounted for. As a result, your body goes into protection mode and starts shutting off little bits of it which it doesn't think are essential to make sure the core functions still have enough energy to work. There's a syndrome called relative energy deficiency in sport, or RED-S syndrome, which encompasses the different psychological and physiological consequences of being in an energy deficient state. This might be changes to mood, bone health, cardiovascular health, reproductive health. Lots of different systems can be affected. As part of that, thermoregulation, or the ability to regulate your temperature, could be affected by an energy deficiency. So linking this back, it's possible that my inability to tolerate the cold as well as I would have liked was because I was in an energy deficient state. And then by putting on weight, as in by adding more calories back in and going into a positive energy balance, I reversed it. Now, while I was at the height of this feeling cold phase, I did some metabolic testing at my old university, including a resting metabolic rate, or RMR test. This test gives a good indication of your daily calorie needs at rest and can be useful when considering an energy deficiency. Your actual RMR can be considered alongside your predicted RMR based on prediction formulas. And if your actual is below your predicted by a certain amount, this could indicate an energy deficiency. Essentially, what you're seeing is a number that reflects that your body has shut down these non-essential functions, and therefore your RMR is lower than expected. Now, my RMR was a reasonable amount higher than predicted values rather than underneath, suggesting that actually my body was firing away pretty happily. So, do I think that I was actually in an energy deficient state? Not necessarily, but it's worth considering, and that's why I wanted to share this with you. As triathletes, we really like to push it. We often train hard multiple times a day, and there's a stigma attached to performance, weight, a certain look. But there are consequences of training too hard, consequences to not fueling sufficiently, and this can affect anyone, whether you're 18 or you're 50. And one really important thing to say is that you can still be in an energy deficient state and not lose weight. Your body adapts to less calories and switches things off, and so you're back at an equilibrium. And one really important thing to say is that you can still be in an energy deficient state and not lose weight. Your body adapts to less calories and switches things off, and so you're back at an equilibrium. It's worth knowing this and checking in with yourself. So even if this just serves as a reminder, then that's great. And let's be honest, we're our own worst enemies when it comes to this sort of thing. Do you eat enough to fuel your training, or do you knowingly hold back a little bit because you're worried about whether you'll gain weight? Do you prioritize sleep and recovery? And as cliche as it sounds, how are you feeling? Do you always feel sore, tired, and grumpy? Well, if this video makes even one of you think about this, then mission accomplished. Done. Thanks for sticking around for this one, guys. I guess this one got pretty deep, didn't it? But I enjoy these sorts of videos and trying to be open and honest, spark a bit of debate, because that's important. So have fun with your training and fuel it well. Last week I did a video on how triathlon training might be ruining your sex drive, and this is based on a similar sort of theme. So if you're interested in that, you can watch that here.